No, that screenshot. Oh my god. I don't know what my buttons are anymore. I could just turn on display capture, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember how to full screen this. I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, it it went into full screen. So, the 24-hour cherry stream was a month ago now. It went from November 8th to 9th, if memory serves on the dates. It is currently December 5th, so it's Friday. So, by the time I'm done rambling here, it will have been a month. It will have been Saturday to Sunday back then. Though, I guess, technically, if you count actual start time, it's not quite that yet. Hold on. I gotta adjust the volume here. Give me a moment. I need to... That is a little bit loud. So, I did everything I needed to do with MGS4 with, like, no time to spare. It was the closest I have ever called a 24-hour cherry stream. It's technically the first time I failed a 24-hour cherry stream because I went for 23 hours and 50 minutes. Not 24 hours, but that was due to no fault of my own. I started as soon as I could, I went as long as I could. Yeah, that was a quite scary ending there. So because I literally ran out of time, I said, you know what? I'm gonna give the review for this game as like a standalone thing sometime after the fact. So, hey, like the first standalone just rambling review video I've done without it also encompassing the final boss. Like, I usually beat the final boss of games, and then during the credits, I'll give my full review on the spot with any series. That wasn't an option this time, because I ran out of time at Extra Life there. So, I've come back with this late night chillin' here. I was just playing some Elden Ring Night Rain with my cousins, and I figured, you know, I have some time tonight. I want to try to finish some stuff off this weekend. And I figured, you know, it's about the 1 month anniversary of the last 24-hour cherry stream. Bunch of things have come out. I've started playing Metroid Prime 4. You know, there's a decent bit has happened since then. And I've had some time to gather my thoughts on this game and cutting it up into parts and, like, rewatching parts of the story that I wasn't as clear on before. I feel like I got a little bit of a better sense of it. So, yeah, I just want to ramble about full review of this, and then we're going to switch over to Metal Gear Solid Delta and play the new multiplayer mode Fox Hunt, since that just released, and, well, it released before the 24-hour cherry stream there. I was going to do it at Extra Life as well, but I ran out of time. There's some new multiplayer mode with Metal Gear Solid Delta, so we're going to switch to that afterwards here. And, yeah, so with this game, it, I don't think it's my least favorite Metal Gear game. I do think that there was a decent bit of frustration to be had with things like Metal Gear 1 or Snake's Revenge. I actually kind of like Snake's Revenge low-key, though, not gonna lie. Um, but, you know, so I don't know why it plays these things. Welcome to Kojima games in a nutshell. Maybe I just shouldn't be on this game while I'm rambling, giving my review, or maybe I load up a save file or something like that. I don't know. Then something happens here. Act 5 end. What happens if I load this? This doesn't put me into the final boss, does it? If it's just cutscenes, I can just, like, mute the game and ramble over that. The ending cutscene's pretty long, so, start button. Where does it put me? Oh, like, right at the beginning of Act 5, I guess. Or epilogue. Yeah, so it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be the bunch of cutscenes and stuff here. Alright, let's just ramble here. So, I do think that, you know, it's not my least favorite Metal Gear game, but it's probably my least favorite Metal Gear Solid game. I do think that, you know, I came out of 1 being like, whoa, holy shit. I came out of 2 being like, whoa, holy shit. I came out of 3 being like, so sad. That's pretty deep and pretty cool, man. So I quite like 3 there as well. And then this game, I came out of like, okay, this felt like the obligatory wrap up of things. And that's apparently what it was supposed to be. Like, on looking it up, I think I read somewhere that, like, Metal Gear Solid was supposed to be the last game in the series. Then Metal Gear Solid 2 was supposed to be the last game in the series. Then Metal Gear Solid 3 was supposed to be the last game of the series. It was supposed to conclude things by bringing everything together by explaining that stuff in the beginning. And then, apparently the whole gist with Metal Gear Solid 2, even though it seemed kind of cliffhanger endy, what with Ocelot escaping, or Liquid Ocelot escaping with Metal Gear Ray. Apparently, the intention from Kojima was made to make you question what's real and what's fake. And so the cliffhanger ending wasn't really a cliffhanger ending in his eyes, but fans had wanted like an actual real ending, like physically, rather than just a what is reality? What's going on here? And so Metal Gear Solid 4, another attempt at wrapping up the series, was just the, you know what? Screw it. End of the timeline. We're going back to Solid Snake. We're wrapping up that cliffhanger there. And we're solving everything. Everything is getting explained. And this game really felt like that. Like, the cutscenes of this game, they're well made. They're good quality, entertaining cutscenes, but oh my god, do they go on and on. Like, it's really half game, half cutscene. Sometimes makes you wonder if it's more cutscene than gameplay, but without much, I was redoing some segments crawling through those battlefields. I think it was probably pretty close to even. Maybe a bit more gameplay. I don't know. We spent a decent bit of time with Bloodborne while Extra Life there. I know that held me back a little bit too, but that was kind of fun there. When my cousin was playing Bloodborne. Anyway, getting a little bit sidetracked. In terms of the story in general, I think a really good way to sum it up is one of the main, like, frag guys that was working at dismantling stuff, who you probably saw, like, walking around me during the finale part, and, dismantling things and being like, oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, yeah, the ending cutscene there is super long. Yeah, after I had wrapped things up, and I was starting to pack up my computer, the stream was over. He asks me, oh, so you beat Metal Gear Solid 4? Can you tell me what the game was about? And I go, and he says, exactly. And I think that kind of sums up the plot of this game decently well, where it's like, truly, what was it about, Like, I can tell you a general plot synopsis, but if you ask me about theme of this game, um, I guess the theme of this one is making the most of your life, even if you have limited time. I don't know. Like, I felt a lot stronger sense of theme with Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. With, 1 being kind of about, like, is your destiny tied to your genetics and all that. 2 being, like, the whole AI stuff where it's like, are these emotions and parts of your personality truly your own? Or is it what a system has decided for you, whether it's an AI or other people presiding over you? Are you just pulling this stuff from elsewhere? And, can people be shaped into a specific mold and stuff like that? And then 3 was all about, was very much all about patriotism and what one would do for one's country, and, you know, what it means to be a soldier and all that kind of stuff. That's what I would think of when it comes to theme with those 3 games. This game theme, yeah, I mean, I guess making the most of your life. We see that kind of reflected with Solid Snake and with Raiden as well, to an extent, that had kind of given up on things, and then got a little bit of a new lease on life by the end of the game there. So I guess that, but it feels mostly like it served to explain all the things. And, fine, fair enough, I suppose. I guess if I'm talking about the plot here first, I mentioned the cutscenes were really long. When you have the mission briefing cutscenes that go on for like 25 minutes, half an hour, that formed like basically a part in and of themselves of my series there. And they had the mission briefing text at the top right or whatever it was, as if to say, oh, this is skippable if you just want to go to gameplay. I mean, what else would be the purpose of it saying mission briefing? I don't know. Like, it felt like it was trying to say that it's an optional cutscene, even though it did feel kind of important to the story. And it just had the stupid mission briefing constantly in the top right. And it's like, okay. But yeah, it took a lot of time getting really caught up on things there. It was, certainly something. Um, what other things about the story here immediately? Like, of course, I like that it built off of where MGS2 left off, what with, like, Liquid Ocelot, the Patriots, all that. Nothing really much came of Metal Gear Ray. It was really about Liquid Ocelot and the Patriots, which, fine, fair enough. Metal Gear Ray would be the weakest of those 3 things there anyway. So, having a bigger threat than Metal Gear also kind of helps up the stakes in this game a little bit, and, explore some arguments about a potential future time period about, like, is this a thing that's gonna happen one day, with the with the whole nanomachines and people being controlled. One of those games that does make you think like, huh, who knows? Maybe that happened. And MGS2 kind of did that at the time with the AI as well. And now that is kind of happening today, and it's like, huh, MGS2 kind of predicted all this. And that makes you wonder if there'll come a day where MGS4 predicted all this that happens in our real world. Who knows? If it does ever happen, it's probably still a long ways off. But who knows? So, it can be fascinating stuff to think about and to raise the stakes by having us take on like a very different threat. Well, part of your clothes are bugging out there a little bit. Um, I the parallels to Metal Gear Solid 1 would have been kind of interesting if it wasn't for the fact that we already did this in Metal Gear Solid 2. So it feels like, oh my god, can we do something different now, please? To an extent. Like, I did kind of like what they did with, like, the laughing octopus, raging raven, crying wolf, and, screaming mantis, or whatever the heck. But, we kind of had a game all about parallels with Metal Gear Solid 1 already, with Metal Gear Solid 2 that was deliberately designed to draw parallels. And this game's story makes it clear that it's meant to draw parallels as well. But I don't know, I might have preferred doing something a little bit different just so that we're not, doing the same thing again. Because we've done the same kind of scheme as MGS1 3 times now. Like, at least in terms of Metal Gear Solid 1 had a certain scheme and bosses. Metal Gear Solid 2 borrowed the same scheme, and then Metal Gear Solid 4 borrowed inspiration for the bosses. So maybe we're doing different things. I don't know. I don't know there. We're playing your game next. I'm gonna play Rising Revengeance. I'm currently debating about whether I want to potentially do it during Janlan or 24-hour Cherry Stream 14 maybe, or maybe some other time. We'll see. I'll do Rising Revengeance at some point here. So yeah, there were some parallels there. It was kind of interesting. I liked the Easter egg with Psycho Mantis there, and it took me rewatching the cutscenes on my own time to notice that Psycho Mantis was appearing a few times throughout the game, and I only actually noticed towards the end. Because my brain was frazzled, I was distracted by other things, I was chatting while I was there at Extra Life, so I didn't really notice the prior times. Um, it was cool what they did with some of the returning characters, like Raiden, of course, Meryl. The cooler things they did with Johnny, the guard that always had to go to the washroom in Metal Gear Solid 1. Um, yeah, and I guess Rose was always real after all then. Um, what else to say about the story there? I I find the whole idea that like Liquid Ocelot planned this thing from the beginning. Ocelot like hypnotized himself into truly believing that he was Liquid, because of course grafting a hand or an arm onto himself isn't gonna have Liquid's spirit possess him. So he needed to do something that made the Patriots truly believe that he was Liquid returned. And so he hypnotized himself to believe he was truly Liquid to do this plan that would ultimately destroy the Patriots. And it's like, really? I mean, it like I know that a lot of these games are extremely far-fetched and kind of unhinged lunacy at times, but this was very much a new extent. It kind of felt like, I don't know, it felt like a little bit absurd to me. And when it comes to Liquid there, I feel like the overall like Metal Gear timeline probably would have been a little bit better if we face Liquid for the first time in Metal Gear Solid and kill him in Metal Gear Solid, but then they want to still make him like a recurring character in the later games, so they came up with Liquid Ocelot, where he grafted on Liquid's hand and then he gets possessed by Liquid sometimes. And so we had Liquid Ocelot as a main antagonist in Metal Gear Solid 2 and the main antagonist in this game. And so it really feels like if we really wanted to use Liquid and the role of Liquid a bit longer, then maybe they should have thought ahead a little bit and had Liquid seem like he died in Metal Gear Solid 1, but maybe he didn't really, or something like that, or he just gets away and then you actually do get to use him in later storytelling. The whole thing with the grafting arm and hypnosis craziness is just what? And would it not have been possible for Ocelot to become a big boss archetype character without donning Liquid's personality, or it wouldn't have fooled the Patriots or something like, I don't know. Like I would need to do a whole bunch of studying of a bunch of probably analysis videos or video essays on YouTube to understand what the heck is going on here. That's kind of the way this plot is. Like, shortly after beating this, I did end up looking up a couple just like Metal Gear Solid 4 explained videos, but all they did was just like go through the game like cutscene by cutscene in order, summarizing what I already knew. And I was like, no, what I want is an explanation of how these things came to be. Like, what the heck is going on here? Because I don't really understand, man. Um, Looking at Raiden here, another thing I will say about the cutscenes is the fight cutscenes, especially like with Raiden and Vamp, were really cool. I think that the first Raiden versus Vamp battle was probably one of the times I've been most engaged by a cutscene in a video game. Like, the battle was so unrealistic, but in like a fun way. Like in a way where they just did like the most unhinged lunacy they could throughout the entire fight that would never work in, a real fight that makes you go like, whoa, what a crazy trick. Like the fight opening up with him still having like two geckos, one attached on either leg by the cables. And he starts doing like a spin around on the ground and spinning them around. And Vamp's there going like that, dodging them all. And the whole fight just like escalates from there. I had to rewatch that cutscene a couple times on my own time. Or like Raiden grabbing the cable, using it to pull up the sword, catching it, and then immediately spinning, doing like a cartwheel thing, bouncing off the sword, and spinning around like that, then eventually landing on the sword like that, and then spinning his legs around, attacking Vamp like that. Like, it was. I think that was probably my favorite cutscene in the whole game. That had me constantly going like, "What the hell? What the hell? What are they gonna do next?" And it kept on going on. Like that might be one of my favorite gaming cutscenes in general now. It was freaking wicked, man. So the game absolutely did do like some really cool out of this world unhinged lunacy. The kind of fight choreography that you'd only see in like a video game or like crazy movie CGI or something like that you wouldn't see in a real setting. And that's hell yeah, seeing that in video games, giving us a unique experience here. I don't know. I really like that cutscene. I just want to talk about that a little bit. I didn't really get much of a chance to see the Raiden versus Vamp 2 battle, considering I was, focused on rocketing all those geckos and stuff. Like, I guess Kojima wanted to do some unique things, and the split screen idea was kind of unique, but, I couldn't really pay attention to the right screen and see what was going on. I'm sure there was some really cool battle going on there, but I have no friggin' idea what the heck it was because I couldn't really watch it. There were some really cool parts in this story. Like, I think that the Metal Gear Rex versus Ray battle was probably one of the most hype parts. I really quite enjoyed that. Like, it wasn't hard. I didn't take any damage during it. But it was just like really hype in general. Like, you're piloting the Metal Gear from the first game, and Liquid Ocelot is piloting the Metal Gear from the second game, the second Solid game. I shouldn't say the first or second game. You know what I mean? Like that felt kind of cool. That might have been my favorite boss battle in the game, just for like the sheer wow and coolness factor. So I quite enjoyed that. Um, we're doing interesting things with some of these old faces and all that. We're having the return of Big Boss here to say like, "Hey, I'm actually alive. You didn't kill me. Everything is a-okay there." And then him kind of dying here and wrapping things up nicely. And it seems like Major Zero is kind of the one of the main kind of big bads and all that he kind of reveals at the end. So I assume that we'll see that picture come together more as we play through the rest of the big boss games of Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and then 5 Ground Zeroes and 5 Phantom Pain. We'll probably see that come together and all that. So play more games to find out about that. But the Zero thing felt a little bit left field. Like after playing Metal Gear Solid 3, it's like, okay, I guess I could see that happening. But it wasn't too built up or anything like that. And I guess that's why the other Metal Gear games exist, to finish telling the rest of that plot line with Big Boss. I don't know. But kind of a satisfying conclusion for our two heroes here of Solid Snake and Naked Snake / Big Boss and all that at the end here. So this game did feel like a good proper conclusion, unlike say Metal Gear Solid 2 that ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Like there is definitely a lot more satisfying ending here as opposed to Liquid Ocelot getting away with Metal Gear Ray and the Patriots still seemingly having a bunch of control, and then it being like, what? The Patriots have been dead for 100 years already, or whatever the heck. So actually being like, yeah, the Patriots are kind of the AI system and stuff now, and they're pulling the strings, and then having the game be all about destroying that and stopping Liquid Ocelot's plans that ultimately leads up to destroying the Patriots, which little bit roundabout kind of way to get there when we're focused on Liquid Ocelot, and it inadvertently ends up having to go into the direction of destroying the Patriots. But hey, still, it's a little bit convoluted, but hey, we got there and stuff. Um, and at least we're able to say like, hey, all the AIs have been destroyed here. It's all done now. It's all solved. And now the cycle of snakes and big bosses is not going to continue. That cycle's broken. Everything's all good and fine and dandy now. So yeah, satisfying conclusion and all that. Like it ends without crazy cliffhanger like 2. So, thank goodness for that at least. Um I thought some of the stuff that they did with Naomi was interesting. Um Her needing to die felt kind of meaningless, but I guess at the same time it was her own opinion that like, hey, I created this monster of vamp and I'm kind of the sameish thing, so I'm just gonna take that away and then I die. And I guess like the whole bit with destroying all the AIs can feel a little bit more impactful when you see a message that you recorded before, I guess. But I don't know. I felt a little bit iffy on the death. Was all there. And poor Otacon, like all 3 of the Metal Gear Solid games that he's been in, he's gone through like some sort of major loss. Like, when is this guy gonna catch a break? I guess never, because the Metal Gear Solid series is probably not continuing. And if it continued past this point, we probably wouldn't be seeing Solid Snake and Otacon again anyway. So yeah, all 3 of his appearances, dude goes through a lot. You feel really bad for him. You really kind of wish that he could take a win. Because yeah, he has a bit of a rough go of things. The Mark III there is kind of fun. I like the way that it emotes and stuff throughout different cutscenes and all that. So that's kind of fun there. Um, what else to say about the story here? It would have been interesting if we saw some other Drebins out of curiosity. I don't know. The graphics of this game were pretty good. I quite enjoyed. Like, I might be seeing in better than original resolution considering emulator things, but is still pretty good graphics. I'm not using any custom texture packs or anything like that, so even if the resolution is bumped up, these are still just the models that were designed for the PS3, and they're pretty good. Is pretty good. The graphics of this game is pretty nice. Um, what else to mention about this here game? Anything about the story that I'm forgetting here? I don't know. Snake didn't really feel like he had as much, say, development as something like, say, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid 1. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess just getting a little bit of a new lease on life towards the end there and having some development that way. I don't know. Maybe I have to rewatch some of the cutscenes again. There's a lot of story in this game. I don't need to really wrap my mind around it all. I'm just kind of winging this based off of cutscenes I've rewatched on and off for the past month span since Extra Life. And my memory of playing this game start to finish in one sitting on that ice rink. So, yeah, I might not remember quite everything here. Oh yeah, the whole Rat Patrol 1 thing here, and it being an anagram of Patriots or whatever the heck. It's certainly something, I guess, there. I kind of liked what they did with Johnny in this game, how he kind of became a bit of a badass towards the end. That was cool. I enjoyed that. Oh, I could have hit X there to see, like, memories and stuff. Whatever, man. Whatever. The whole pressing X to see flashbacks during cutscenes, like, I guess it's something there. I think Kojima wanted to have something unique to the medium of video games where it's like you're actually interacting with the cutscenes. You're just hitting the one button from time to time and just seeing like images pop up. And hey, I guess it's a reminder of all these things that this game is drawing on, considering it's drawing on like all the other Metal Gear games up to this point. Being like, hey, do you remember this? Here's what it kind of looked like. It's some level of interaction, I guess. I don't think that it was all that engaging. It was just like, oh crap, I have to press that. I pressed it a few times, and sometimes I spam it. And it's like flashback scene, flashback scene, flashback scene, or image, or whatever the heck. It's you know wanted to be different there, but meh. I don't know. I didn't particularly care one way or another whether I was pressing X during those. Like I tried to get it just for the sake of seeing what the pop up there was, but it's whatever, man. Um, I don't know. There's the Rat PT1, Rat Patrol 1. Voila. Whoa, Patriot. With the 1 there. Patriot. Yeah, they were gonna help out the Patriots, but yeah, it turns out they destroyed them. Funny how things work out and stuff. But yeah, quite a bananas plot line this game is for sure. No doubt about that. The music I thought was pretty good, but not as iconic as Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, or 3. Like, the main themes of this game were really good. And, like, the main theme with Old Snake there on the title screen, that's pretty good. But there wasn't as much in the way of music with this game that I was like, wow, that was amazing. That's a theme I'm really gonna remember this game by, like I would have with Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. Didn't really have that to the same extent with this game. But there was some good music there. And then the thing that I would have the most to talk about would be the would be the gameplay. So m- most of the other Metal Gear games I've also beaten start to finish in one sitting. Pretty much everything but Metal Gear Solid 3 since I was playing that like on my own time here and there with the new release of MGS Delta and kind of taking my time with that, and it was kind of fun for once to just be taking my time with it and hopping in from time to time when I wanted to play Metal Gear. But, I'm used to playing these games start to finish without too much pain. Like, I can typically get through it not too bad. This, even excluding the amount of time that it took me, and the fact that there were some delays when I was going over and helping out with stuff with Bloodborne, for example, just the raw gameplay experience. Like, I'm sure the gameplay experience would be better if I just like saved and quit and came back and continued playing some more later. So I'm sure that the issues of this game may have been worsened by the fact that I played it start to finish in one like 24-hour long sitting. But I just didn't really like the game feel of a lot of this game. The previous Metal Gear Solid games had you sneaking around like these heavily fortified compounds and stuff, or around the forest area and stuff like that. With Metal Gear Solid 3, you'd have like lulls where it's just like wildlife and no guards or anything like that, and then all of a sudden guards, and you gotta sneak past them and they're patrolling and stuff like that, which is like, okay, same kind of idea of what we were dealing with in MGS 1 and 2 in areas with guards. This game immediately starts you out with sneaking through an active battlefield. And at first, I was kind of excited, being like, whoa, this is a change of pace. Like, I respect them for doing something a little bit different and not just being more of the same. And then, like, you basically have to crawl to sneak through to, like, super blend in and not have people see you. Sneaking through active battlefields I found to be so much harder than patrolling guards, because the patrolling guards would be like, wander this way, look this way, wander this way, look this way, wander this way, look this way, wander this way. Like you could keep an eye out for patterns and like follow behind them and stuff like that. It would have an element of predictability to it. And the guards wouldn't exactly be like actively looking around for you unless like you had already set off an alert. It would just be, wandering around whatever direction they're already looking. Whereas with these active battlefields, these guys seemed a lot more alert. They are fighting guys. They seem like a lot more on top of knowing where you were than than the other games. And plus, when you have two sides fighting, like let's say you're here, there's group A here and they're shooting that way. And there's group B over here and they're shooting this way. And you over here need to get past group B over there, which means you need to go through the sight of a whole bunch of guys that are already actively firing that way, and through the sight of a bunch of people looking this way that are all actively firing this way and already ready to like lay it into you. So I was trying my best to find routes around and stuff like that, but you it was a little bit hard sometimes. The whole dealing with enemy sight there was a lot more to be dealing with. And so you basically had to use the octo camo to its full potential of just like wait on the ground for a moment, fully blend in, crawl on by, take it slow so that the enemies don't see you. So it was so much more slow going than the other Metal Gear Solid games by necessity, considering enemies are kind of always looking your direction a lot of the time. And, there's a chance that they might just stumble over you and see you anyway. And the moment you get seen, great. Now, instead of like one or two guards that's laying it into you, like the other Metal Gear Solid games, congratulations. You've got like 10 guys that are probably actually firing at you now. Like, felt like very punishing in that sense, and I technically wasn't even playing on the hardest difficulty. I was just playing on the hardest default unlock difficulty. This is one of those games that has a hardest difficulty that unlocks when you when you beat the game. So I can't even imagine, dude. So, it took me many, 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 many tries to sneak through these active battlefields. Like, I had areas that I'd be stumped on a little bit during the other Metal Gear Solid games, but it would usually be during boss battles. Like, just retry the boss battle until I get it or something like that. If one of those is something that I'm struggling a little bit with, and I'm hyped when I finally beat the boss. But this, there wasn't that much in the way of boss battles I was struggling with. Like, sure, I take like a couple tries on some of them sometimes, but there wasn't anything that really stumped me for a super long time boss battle wise. It was but the levels were stumping me for quite a while there because I couldn't figure out how to get past guys. And then if only I could have figured out how to like save state on emulator here, that would have saved me some effort. But no, couldn't quite figure that out. So I had to restart for my last checkpoint every time. I was losing so much time, and then like the whole close call at the end and stuff there. So yeah, the whole redoing levels are getting so close after going so slowly. Like, I don't mind replaying segments in games if it's fast. Like, for example, take The Last of Us in grounded mode. Last of Us in grounded is really, really hard and really quite fun. I quite enjoy it. And, I do spend a lot of time just retrying the level over and over again because Last of Us grounded is really friggin' hard, both in The Last of Us 1 and 2. But the thing is, like, I die, I reload my checkpoint. I've lost like maybe 2 minutes at the very most. You know? Oh, and this is how they reveal Big Boss and stuff. That's kind of cool. To make the player go like, wait, what? Big Boss was in this game? And then he appears. That's kind of neat. I guess I could have let that credits thing play out on Extra Life. It would have cost me a little bit more time, but I thought it was going to play the whole credits there, so I did the skipping thing that I did. Anyway, it doesn't feel that bad because it's like typically I'm only going to lose like maybe a minute of progress, something like that. If I'm more than a couple minutes in, then I have a good sense of how to do this level at this point, and it's not going to take that long to get back. So, Last of Us grounded while being really hard, it really felt like keep going at each level and really learn it, learn the layout, learn where people are and the strategies that I can use until I have like all the knowledge that I need to execute on it and see through like a really beautiful looking run where I take like next to no damage or I sneak by everybody or I kill everybody, stuff like that. And that's really quite engaging. So I don't mind like a really hard game like that with frequent, pretty generous checkpoints. Sometimes it even checkpoints you mid-level, mid-area if it feels like you're decently far in. So I'll die, be like, oh crap, I have to redo it all over again. And then I find out I checkpointed partway through and it's like, oh, I restart from here. There's only like 2 or 3 guys left. Oh, that's easy now. Sweet. You know? So it was pretty generous in that sense. So I don't mind games like that. But when the levels of this weren't particularly long in the sense of distance, but they were long in the sense of there's so many people actively shooting at one another at all times that if I don't want to get seen, I gotta freaking belly down to the floor and just crawl all the way that I gotta go. And then I end up going really, really slow. Alright, yeah, this cutscene definitely works out better on the video that we watched last time there. Um, so that kind of artificially made it made it extremely slow because I have to go extremely slow if I don't die. And then I get caught somewhere towards the end and then I got to redo the whole thing. Like my god. So I didn't mind the active battlefield thing at first at the beginning of the game because I was like, "Whoa, something new, something novel." That's kind of cool that we're doing something different that I haven't really experienced in Metal Gear Solid before. Like, hey, I like something different. And then I did the exact same thing for 10 hours or whatever it was with like the first 2 acts. I was getting pretty sick and tired of crawling through active battlefields, and it was really starting to feel like that's all the game was. And you also gotta add the fact that so much of the game looks and feels the exact same. I really felt that when I was cutting up my Metal Gear Solid 4 series into parts, and just so many of the thumbnails basically look the exact same. They've got like the same kind of color gradient over them, the same light brownish, grayish kind of look. it made me really glad for the later segments when it looked a little bit different. But so much of the game just had this dark kind of brownish grayish aesthetic to it. Like it definitely didn't have as much of the flair or charm as Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, or 3. And I guess maybe that's what they were going for, but if we're spending this game going across like completely different areas on the planet, as opposed to Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 that all take place in essentially one place, with Metal Gear Solid 1 being Shadow Moses Island, Metal Gear Solid 2 being the Big Shell, and, well, outside the intro, Metal Gear Solid 3 being the jungle there in Russia, a different area as well than the intro, kind of similar to Metal Gear Solid 2, but you know what I mean here. Metal Gear Solid 4 here, having acts in all different places of the world. You know, that was kind of cool, and I like the concept there. And you know, the areas did generally look different. Like you could tell looking at it, like, okay, yeah, different architecture. This is a different part of the world. Like, obviously, the Middle East isn't gonna feel the same as like the Europe level, for example. But they all had the same kind of general dark aesthetic. So even though, you know, at least it wasn't so similar that everything looked the same, a lot of it still had a similar kind of feel. Like, not 100%, 100%. Like, you know, there was a similar feel with the first two worlds as we're crawling through active battlefields. It was changed up a little bit with the third one when we start out with that tailing mission. Oh my god. So, after like 10 hours or whatever it was of just crawling through active battlefields and giving me my gamer PTSD equivalent of of flashbacks to a war there, especially with the noise. Like my god, you have like all the people around in the public of one of, if not the biggest mall in Canada. It used to be the biggest mall in Canada. I don't remember if it still is, but one of the biggest malls in the country, probably one of the biggest malls on the continent here, of everybody going by. All the other people gaming, potentially live orchestras playing over there from time to time. Sometimes there's music and stuff like that on the stage or different events. There's chatting going on around me. I'm chatting with RJ beside me from time to time there. And meanwhile, I'm playing my game there, and with all this other noise, I have to crank up my volume to be able to hear what's going on. But at the same time, the game itself is really loud with like all the gunshots and everything. And so my ears are getting blasted with like all this machine gun fire and stuff. And yeah, the 24-hour Cherry Stream 13, Extra Life 2025, is gonna be my streaming PTSD of, you know, the shell shock of crawling through those battlefields. So doing that for like 10 hours or whatever the heck really took it out of me. And then finally with Act 3, it was like, oh, something different. I can't wait to play this different gameplay. And then it was probably the worst tailing mission I have. Hey, I can hit X flashbacks there. Wow. Might well have been the worst tailing mission I might have ever experienced in a video game. It's definitely up there. My god, was that painful. Like, at least there wasn't a thing where it would fail you and then you'd have to restart from the beginning. Like, maybe if he's arrested and taken away, then maybe it would fail you. And also, it was completely different from the gameplay description that went into that point. It gave me such mixed messages. It had told me, like, have your radio on this frequency, and then you get up to an area and it'll give you a hint about the next location, and then go to that location with your radio on, and it'll give you a hint about the next location, or something like that. It said something along those lines. And then it turned out to be a tailing mission on one guy. So I don't know what the heck the deal was with the explanation about, like, the radio and getting hints about where to go, when it's just one multi-area segment of tailing one guy for like 3 business days. So I don't know what the deal with that was. Needing to take out so many guards along his way so that he could move on. He sees you, he runs and hides. You need to figure out where he ran and hid without alerting him so that you can get back to tailing him. Just a decent bit of a pain there. He was more alert than I would have liked him to be at times. There was times that he kind of started walking over me while I was wearing the Octo Camo, and then he gets spooked and runs away. He got spooked pretty easily, that dude. Though I guess I was dropping guards all around him, but you know, it was really, really painful. And then right when I'm getting close towards the end, of course, that's when my game crashes. And the way it is with just the hard saves of this game, I had to restart that whole act from the beginning. And so there went an hour. And then I spent another hour tailing the same guy again. As if my emulator hadn't crashed. It wouldn't have been such a close call with the end there. If a lot of things hadn't happened, it would have been a very close call with the end there. But that's the biggest incident, was the game crashing and having to redo that tailing mission there. I was chatting with Sate Jam on one of my recent streams, a Pokemon Legends ZA stream, who, again, I was saying, I was kind of surprised that I didn't see that Sate nerd during Metal Gear Solid 4. Maybe he's watching this on YouTube in the future here. And we were chatting a little bit about that, and he was asking what I thought about Metal Gear Solid 4, and when I mentioned the tailing mission, he was like, oh yeah, the worst mission in the game, and I was like, yeah. Part of me wondered if it would have been better to be crawling through more active battlefields, man. So I didn't particularly like that. And then Act 4 was Shadow Moses Island. That was a fun change of pace. Shadow Moses Island was probably my favorite segment of the game, just because it wasn't stupid tailing and it wasn't crawling through active battlefields. The second half of Act 3 was pretty cool, though. I do gotta give it credit. The whole being on the motorbike with Ava like it's Metal Gear Solid 3 and shooting guys along the way, drawing some parallels to that game as well. That was kind of cool. I like that. That was kind of hype. That was neat there. Um, Act 4, yeah, Shadow Moses Island. So I like that for not crawling through active battlefields or doing a really awful tailing segment. And then plus, actually physically returning to Shadow Moses Island, it was kind of cool and novel, and being able to explore this area with like super bumped up graphics now. It was that was kind of neat. And then it feels like as you're going through, like, hey, things are relatively safe, and then you have like these geckos that are dropping down and you have to sneak around. And that felt like some more traditional Metal Gear with some twists, like keep the gecko distracted while Otacon's opening the gate and stuff like that. So we had some different stuff that wasn't too annoying, and kind of cool to be exploring through there. And then Act 5, my god. The first level there on Liquid Ocelot's ship, where you have to sneak past all the guards and the geckos and like open up the door and then sneak in and get to the elevator. My god, that might genuinely be one of the hardest levels I've played in a video game in a long time. Like, it felt like everything needed to be perfect, and even when I successfully got it, it felt like I just bullshit my way through. Because I basically just had to put down a whole bunch of smoke grenades at the end and hope and pray to the Metal Gear gods that it would somehow let me through. I finally got through there. But, I don't know as like on the easier difficulties, but especially on Big Boss Hard and up, it does make me genuinely wonder, what is it that you're actually expected to do there? Like, are you supposed to like kill all the guards along the way and then kill the gecko that's standing in front of the door or something like that? Is that what you're supposed to do? Because there's no way what I did was the intended way. There's no shot of that. Like, I very much cheese my way through there. Like, skill my way through like 95% of it after I figured out like a good optimal route to do that. But that last 5%, you can do like the entire thing near perfectly. And then that last freaking door opening was like the most bullshit thing that felt like it was darn near impossible. The moment you go for it, the freaking, here, I can press the button and see a couple things there. The uh, the moment you get to that door, the freaking gecko sweeps you by the leg and then you just insta-die. Then, like, my god. I really hated that level. So, the crawling through active battlefields that made up 2 out of 5 acts of the game, the freaking tailing the one guy that took up, especially in my case with the game crashing, basically half of another act, and then Act 5 being another another thing that was just genuinely painful for that essentially first half, because it was, you know, a little bit more level stuff into it, but it was a lot easier and you got through it a whole lot faster. So most of my time was spent there, essentially, if we're not counting cutscenes and stuff like that towards the end. So, that's 2 out of 5, and then half of 3 and half of 5 for another solid 1 in terms of acts. So that's essentially a total of 3/5 of the game was misery for me. Like, I was genuinely quite miserable playing this game for, when I think about it like that, over half of it. So, yeah, this is definitely my least favorite of the Metal Gear Solid games. like both in terms of story and in terms of gameplay here, when it was just genuinely such awful experience with over half of this game. Again, I like Shadow Moses. I like the second half of Act 3, and I kind of like the second half of Act 5. But man, Acts 1 and 2, the first half of Act 3 and the first half of Act 5, my god. I could see myself potentially replaying Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 on my own time. Like, years down the line, I have some time, I want to play some games I haven't played in a long time. I would replay Metal Gear Solid 1 to 3. I don't think I'm ever going to replay this game. I want to re-experience the story of this game. I'll just look up a cutscene movie on YouTube. I don't think I ever want to play this game again. Again, there are some good parts, but I don't think it justifies the amount of parts that I was miserable with. With some other positives with the gameplay, I generally like the boss battles and stuff. I feel like with Laughing Octopus, the game could have held off a little bit longer before giving me hints with Ocelot. Like, I guess maybe in playtesting, people didn't really find Laughing Octopus for a long time, and so they figured, well, I can press X here. Yeah, Major Zero from MGS3 there. I remember him. That's him, man. So I guess they were just like, let's just give hints, like, immediately. So, it didn't really give you the chance to figure it out. Like, try to remember, what is strange here? What is missing here? Because Ocelot would just tell you, like, immediately. So that was my biggest complaint with the Laughing Octopus boss fight. That and the freaking roll was OP. I got rolled into, I die. Where's the other attacks? Just did nothing even close to that in comparison. So, you know, there was that. Was that Act 1 or was that Act 2? That was Act 2 there. Then Act 3 was the one with the Raging Raven. That one was kind of cool. Like, shooting at this target that's flying around the sky there. X was a little bit of a pain in the ass sometimes figuring out which one is actually Raging Raven here. So that was a little bit of a pain at times there. The Act 4 boss there with the, X Ocelot. The Crying Wolf one was cool. I thought that was kind of neat, where it's like you don't actually know where she is, and you kind of have to figure it out in the midst of like this snowstorm and other bad dudos coming after you. That actually did feel like, hey, we both have sniper equipment here, trying to figure out where the other is and take out the other before, they take you out, kind of thing. I like the Crying Wolf boss fight there. And then you basically watch Raiden do a boss battle with Vamp while you do the Gecko fight there. That one was kind of interesting, kind of novel. The actual battle with Vamp, I wish I realized the gimmick to it a little bit earlier on, because if I had realized what I actually had to do, it wouldn't have caused me as much stress. And it's to grab him and inject him with the thing that takes away his immortality nanomachines felt really finicky. And, when I looked up what I had to do, there were times that I tried to do exactly what I was apparently supposed to do, and it just didn't work. So that felt a little bit finicky, so I had my complaints with that. Then the Metal Gear Rex versus Ray boss battle. Again, super easy, but so hype. Like, that battle was really cool. I really liked that battle. Then, the boss battle with Liquid Ocelot at the end. There's some graphics glitching out there. On one hand, it would have been kind of cool if it built off of mechanics that you already knew, so that if you're already good at the game, you can just, play the boss battle really well, as would be the case with a lot of the other boss battles. But it did something very different there. But it kind of was, throwback to Metal Gear Solid 1 in the first place, with, like, you doing the fist fight on top of Metal Gear Rex. And clearly that was meant to draw parallels to that, and, like, the whole Metal Gear Solid 1 theming. And then you go into Phase 2 and it does Metal Gear Solid 2 theming and Metal Gear Solid 2 music. And then you advance them to Phase 3 and then it does Metal Gear Solid 3 theming and Metal Gear Solid 3 music. And then you clear that and then it plays a theme of Old Snake from this game. And then it's mostly just cutscene and, like, freebie with, like, the final punch and stuff. Like, that was cool. That was kind of cool there. And at least one advantage of it being a completely different control scheme unique to that was it meant that my little cousin RJ could give some goes at it as well and would be, he would have as much knowledge as me in terms of gameplay there, considering it was a completely different set of controls. So it was kind of fun passing the controller back and forth since he was done with Bloodborne stuff. and trying to beat Liquid Ocelot. I liked how, the style changed. We had like the name change there accordingly with the different games from Liquid to Liquid Ocelot to Ocelot, then to No Health Bar. That was kind of cool. I did enjoy that. So even though I was kind of rushing and kind of panicking at the last second there with the end, I did enjoy the final boss battle. Yeah, I just generally quite enjoyed the boss battles of this game. I thought the boss battles were pretty cool. I forgot to mention Screaming Mantis there. That one was kind of cool. A little bit hard to shoot the puppets. A little bit difficult at times, but got it figured out. Got things going. Then of course the funny stuff with Psycho Mantis afterwards. Like that was pretty good there. And then I guess the last couple things with the game are the whole buying weapons in the shop as opposed to discovering them out in the world. I can see how there would be pros and cons to that. Like, the cons would be like, I do get the feel of you find a weapon out there in the world in Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and it's like, ooh, like I just discovered this. That's amazing. I get to use this thing now. That's so cool. You don't really have that in Metal Gear Solid 4 with you just, accumulating a whole bunch of weapons. I guess from time to time you pick up something new that just happened to be on a guard that was nearby. Not like you discovered it in some back room or some side road or anything like that. And then just, you save up enough funds to get the things that you want, and then you get them, and then it isn't really a sense of discovery. It's more of a sense of grinding up the funds by picking up enough weapons along the way so they can be sold to Drebin. X, the boss. Then getting what you want. So it doesn't really have quite the same sense of like discovery, dopamine, stuff like that as finding them out in the world. But I did appreciate there actually being something meaningful consistently to be picking up off of guards. Where it's like, hey, there's a whole bunch of guns here. Let's go and pick them up so I get a bunch of funds. And, it would feel rewarding to do that. And then when I had like my own choice of what I wanted to get, it let me tailor my own gameplay experience a lot closer to the way that I wanted to play by being able to pick and choose the things that I actually wanted to play with instead of it just being whatever I happen to find when I play blind, and working with what I get. So I got to tailor my own gameplay experience a little bit better. So honestly, like even though I think that there is pros and cons with it, I think I kind of like the approach of Drebin's shop. I don't know if I would want that for like every game. Like let's say there was a series and I had the choice of like a shop where I can buy any weapon or discover them out in the world. I don't think I'd want one or the other for like every single game in a series that I was playing. So, I appreciated something different here. Maybe I liked it a little bit better. Potentially. I would have to think about that. But I got to tailor my own gameplay experience the way that I wanted to with the weapons that I was picking up. So I appreciated that. So I did like that a little bit better. But again, I wouldn't want like every game I played to be like that. It's just, there is some fun to discovering, ooh, look, a really cool sniper rifle I found in the storage room. I can't wait to use that. So, didn't really have that sense in this game, but it definitely worked there. It worked out well enough. Um the controls felt a little bit rigid at times there. Like I do get that this wasn't quite like, you know, 2010s era where we kind of have like the standardized controls and stuff for and gameplay feel for action slash third person shooter games of a similar style. Like playing this game, it still felt very similar to Metal Gear Solid 1 to 3 controls wise, with a little bit of rigidity, not quite flowing well, if that makes sense there. Like at least it was a control scheme that kind of made sense to me playing the other games, but it was definitely a little bit rigid there, didn't quite flow in the way that I had hoped. And I wish that guards weren't as alert as they were, but that part of that could have been because I was playing on Big Boss Hard. I don't know how long I've been giving this review for because again, I was streaming before this point. I was playing Elden Ring Night Rain with my cousins, so I've already been streaming for like 4 something hours. And I was just like, hey, I want to finish off a bunch of stuff this weekend. Let's finally get this done. It's also 12/26. It's December 6th, so it has now been 1 month since the 24-hour Cherry Stream 13. 1 month later, I'm finally giving my full review here. Not like it matters. This is gonna go up on YouTube like December 20th, something like that. I think part 35 is scheduled December 19th. Because, yeah, that's what happens when I play a whole long game all in one sitting. So I could have waited even longer. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. But, yeah, I'm glad that I got the time to be able to give my full review here. I would have liked to have done it then and there when things were kind of fresh. Like, at least I can talk about some things with the story a little bit more in depth since I had time to actually, like, rewatch some of the cutscenes that I didn't get the chance to pay 100% attention to during Extra Life. Um, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about this game. So I think overall, I am glad that I played it. I am glad that it's another experience under my belt, but I would not play it again. And yeah, yeah, I would not play it again. I mean, not quite my cup of tea as much as I really like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. I'd say I have a mixed relationship with this game. There's aspects that I like, but, you know, I feel like the story's not as good as the other three games I played there. I'm not going to talk about the 2D retro ones here, but in comparison to the Solid games, I don't think the story's as good as the other three games. I don't think the music's as good as the other three games. I don't think the gameplay is as good as the other three games. The gameplay of this game kind of drove me up the wall. The graphics are definitely better than the other three games. Not so much anymore with Metal Gear Solid Delta, at least with that one now having the best graphics, but generally speaking. So I want to play a Metal Gear Solid game. I don't think I have too much reason to play this one again in the future unless I really want something different to the other ones. I do look forward to seeing what the other ones here are like. I'm really looking forward to playing Rising Revengeance. That's a Platinum Games developed action game following Raiden. So, extremely different style of game there considering it's a spin-off. So I'm looking forward to playing that, especially considering it's probably one of the most famous games in the series, despite it being a spin-off. Like, it is very much a modern classic that a lot of people hold in high regards, even non-Metal Gear fans that just play Metal Gear Rising Revengeance alone. So I really can't wait to see what all the hubbub is about. So that's going to be the next Metal Gear game we play on this channel. After the little smidge of multiplayer stuff that I'll do of a Delta tonight for the sake of checking it out. Then I can strike it off my little to-do list of, I still got to give my review of Metal Gear Solid 4 and do that Metal Gear Solid Delta multiplayer stuff. So I'll do that right after this. But yeah, that's kind of what's coming up for Metal Gear series here. Then I guess reflecting on Extra Life here a little bit, just because I may as well let this fully play out. We're almost there. I'm giving my full review, and the cutscene still hasn't ended. I've been rambling about this for a while. So I guess reflecting on Extra Life in general there. I was awake for quite some time. I think I remember shortly after I was saying how long I was awake for. Now I'm forgetting what the number was. Whether it was like 32 hours or 34 hours or something like that. It was 30 something hours I was awake for. I was really quite tired. I might have been awake more hours during Extra Life last year since I got there early to help with setup. We didn't get there as early this year because well, I had a lot of stuff going on the Friday and I didn't get the chance to pack up as soon as I had hoped. It was a really really busy day at work that day, so I didn't really have too much of an opportunity to be leaving earlier. Like I would have liked to get packed up for Extra Life, so I only finished packing up my car at like 11 p.m. or something like that the night before Extra Life. So we didn't get there quite as early to help with setup. We did help with teardown. I mean, RJ was helping with teardown while I was watching this stupid cutscene here, as you would have seen during that. So, you know, we helped with a decent bit of teardown after I wrapped up stream there, and then, loaded everything into the car, and I dropped him off at home, and then I came home here and unloaded things. I had a major splitting headache for like half a week after that. Like, I think I really should have chilled out on streaming for a while after that event, but there was other stuff that I wanted to get to, like other things on my game queue to get done, and I was like, you know what? I feel awake enough now. Let's just get to it. And I ended up really quite destroying my body, and I got like this throbbing feeling in my eyes while I was streaming games shortly after that, because I was playing games like Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, since that was a game that just came out around the same time that I did that 24-hour charity stream. So I was trying to do that as a new release. And I I it was destroying my eyes, man. It was giving me a headache. It felt like my eyes were throbbing. It really felt like my body needed to chill out from streaming, gaming, and potentially just screen time in general since that event. So I kind of needed to chill out a little bit from it after, I did the 24-hour cherry stream, then had like a day or two of downtime, and then went right back to streaming. And it was like, I can't do this, man. And didn't for a little bit. And then, was it the following week or something like that, or a couple weeks after that, I started getting really sick and I got food poisoning and I beat Ghost of Yote while I was dealing with severe nausea. And that's another game that I have to go back to give a standalone review for, because I beat the game and I had to wrap it up, not because I was running out of time, but because I had to go and throw up and just be sick and awful for a while and didn't feel like streaming anymore. Um, so yeah, 2 games here recently that I didn't get the chance to give my full review during the final bit of. So I guess I'll be giving a standalone kind of review of Ghost of Yote here at some point too. Slash, there's always stuff to do around in that world. I'll just explore around the world while I give my review like I did in Ghost of Tsushima, but still, I gotta do that at some point. I would have done that tonight if I had my PS5 here, but I don't. I lent it to RJ so that he could finish playing Bloodborne, play the DLC and stuff like that. That I didn't get the chance to, so I figured I'd beat the game. I have lots of other games I can play here right now. Let's just commit to these other games for a little bit. He can play Bloodborne. I'll do the rest of stuff with Ghost of Yote sometime later. The important stuff of beating the game is done. Maybe it'll be like this game where the review only ends up happening a month after playing the game originally. Who knows? So yeah, that's what was going on there. So I felt really, really shitty after this one was done. I mean, this usually happens after my 24-hour cherry streams in general, but especially the extra life ones, because I'm awake extra long for the extra life ones, for like getting there, setting up, doing the whole thing, tearing down, coming back home, unloading everything, all that stuff there. So it takes a whole lot more out of me than just waking up, grabbing food, coming here and shooting for 24 hours, then going back to bed. Very, very, very different experience. I was a little bit disappointed with Extra Life this year in the sense of it's supposed to be a 24-hour event, and I presume that other people in their own rows would presumably be doing their own 24-hour cherry streams. So the fact that I went for as long as I possibly could and it wasn't even 24 hours, like, come on, isn't the whole gist of the event like 24-hour gaming thing? And I didn't even get the chance to game for 24 hours when I was gaming as long as I could. Like, to be fair, though, with us with the Fragapalooza area, we tried to set up like everyone else first, and that's what we did. So everyone else was gaming for probably a solid, I don't know, like 30, 45 minutes. Might have been an hour. I don't think so, though. It was somewhere around like 30 to 45 minutes. People were starting to like game there. People were setting up their setups a decent bit before us, because we got all their tables good and ready to go before we did the frag table, so that all the participants here can come and actually participate and all that. I mean, I'm in the weird position where I'm both a participant and a Fragapalooza helper dudo. Um, kind of both there. Look, I'm actually wearing my Fragapalooza hoodie today. You have the little staff thing on the side there. And I didn't even mean to be wearing my Fragapalooza shirt today. This is how it happened to be the very top shirt in my drawer. It's funny how things work out like that sometimes. But yeah, so I know that everyone else kind of ended earlier than I did. I was the one that was going the latest into the event by far. Like, anyone that saw that final part knows that. When everything is dismantled around me, they're starting to take some of the tables down over there. People are long gone, they've gone home, and I'm still there watching the cutscenes of this game. So, I was definitely going longer than everyone else. But when you consider the earlier time that others started, I do wonder if they got a full 24 hours. If other people were live streaming, did they go for 24 hours? Because I wasn't able to. So, a little bit disappointing that I failed my first 24-hour cherry stream. But, I could have easily stayed awake another 9 minutes there. I was awake for like a couple more hours yet that day. But, I can't exactly be streaming if that goes down. I've never tried it before, but I think that you can do like either off of Streamlabs or Twitch or something like that on your phone, just like live streaming from your phone. I know there's all sorts of different software for that because people do that kind of thing all the time. Just turn it into an IRL stream and then I say that it's a 24-hour cherry stream or something like that if I really wanted to. I wouldn't know how to set something like that up. I'd have to do it like preemptively. And there hasn't been too much of a risk during the previous couple Extra Life events. of not being able to hit 24 hours. Because I think the past 2 years, at least one of the past 2 years, I remember was during a time change. Cavia, that's similar to Carvia, um, was during a time change. So going from like noon to noon would be 25 hours instead of 24 hours. I think the 24-hour Cherry Stream 9 with Metal Gear Solid 2 might have been that. I don't know. It's been a hot second. I don't recall exactly. But I do remember at least one Extra Life event happening during a time change. So you got 25 hours out of it. If something like that ended up working out schedule wise again, fantastic. That would have been great. Beauty and the Beast photo shooting session LA. Okay. Director Hideo Kojima of the Beauty and the Beast photo shoot. Of course he would be. Um so yeah, that would be great. Because yeah, it not falling on a time change and me literally having less than 24 hours to fit my 24-hour cherry stream into. That poses a little bit of a problem. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If I don't know if they have like any feedback forms for after the event. I think during previous years I literally just reached out to like the Extra Life VP, who's now the current like Edmonton president of Extra Life, and just said like, hey, this is what's going on there. Or maybe I reached out to the at the time president. I don't remember. I gave feedback to someone about like stuff about copyright music on the stage, and then they addressed that and all that stuff. I think that's the way that I handled feedback in the past. If they have like a feedback form, I'd probably be like, hey, can I get at least 24 hours for this 24-hour event? Or something like that. Again, I'm in a unique position where, as one of the volunteers helping set up, naturally we get everyone else going first and then ourselves set up. So, you know, I don't know. But considering how late I was going into it and I still didn't do 24 hours, even with the earlier start that others had, I have my doubts that anyone else was able to go for 24 hours in the event for, 24-hour stuff, 24-hour streams there and all that stuff there. So, a little bit of a disappointment with that aspect of Extra Life this year. And, but, still a good fun event. It's definitely the highest, it might well be the highest profile gaming event that I'm a part of each year. Like, Fragapalooza is definitely up there in terms of high profile, what with, hundreds of people participating there. With Extra Life, it's 80-person space? Something like that. It's around 80-ish for the amount of us that are gaming there. But, technically still a bigger event with, like, lots of people gaming from home and all that. And plus, with it being in the middle of West Edmonton Mall, it being a big enough event that it's on the news. There was a global news bit on Extra Life for this past year. I don't think I was on it or anything like that. I don't know if you can find it. I think I searched it up on YouTube shortly after the fact, and it looked like they hadn't uploaded it. I just saw it on like the actual news like one morning shortly after I ended up participating at the event. Like if I just look up global news Extra Life Edmonton, can I find the bit that I saw on the news? Surviving Edmonton. 1 year spent with homeless people seeking stable housing. That's not Extra Life. There's an official Extra Life Edmonton YouTube channel, and it's got 57 subscribers. Well, now it's got 58, I guess, videos. They don't, it's just like their opening videos and different things there, is what it is. Extra Life Edmonton news segment. I guess they don't upload, like, everything there, but, you know, Extra Life levels up on game day. Play games and heal kids with Extra Life Edmonton Game Day. Global News, October 19th, 2023. They upload a video to the Global News channel. Here's one in 2017. But yeah, it was on the news. I should have recorded or something there. I had assumed that maybe it would be posted online because I'd seen ones before. But I guess not. I guess that's not the case here. What's this one, what's this one from 2023? Because I know I was there. I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2. I'm a little bit curious about this one. Oh, but now I have to watch an ad. But really, like, maybe I could search up Extra Life here and find other stuff. Because I know that they did one for Extra Life this year, but maybe it didn't go up on a thingamajig. I don't know. Am I in this one? You can't hover over and see different things. Extra Life people's there, I guess. Oh. Nope, that wouldn't be the right angle, would it? Or wait. Yeah, I would be back here somewhere. Something like that. Was there a lot more tables during 2023 and then a lot less of a public space? The years are blurring together for me, so I don't even clearly remember at this point. But, I was there. It was that same shot again. There's shots of me on the on the Extra Life Twitter channel there, or Twitter page, which I guess is X now. Freaking Elon's amazing free speech platform. You don't even hear about Elon that much in politics anymore. I think he separated himself from that after he destroyed the stock of his companies. But now I'm curious about stuff that Extra Life Edmonton posted for this year. That's what I am a little smidge curious about. Also, if I just look up Extra Life here, because I did have a segment on Extra Life this year, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not here. Extra Life. Oh, it doesn't even find that one from 2023. What? Sort of How to Train Your Dragon reveal fun behind the scenes moment. Soaring reboot. Oh, that's the live action thing. That's like my favorite movie trilogy of all time. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot the live action existed until I was reminded there. I was like, what the heck are they talking about? I haven't seen it before, nor did I intend on seeing it. Extra Life. Edmonton. If I search up on the thingamajig here. Because they usually post things about stuff. I think that I overheard that the amount that was fundraised on the rink alone was like $51,000 this year. It was something like that. Did they not post anything for this year? Wow. I'm a little bit surprised. Yeah, there's their booths last year. RJ and I played at this little Smash Play area and might have stomped a couple kids. But but we were there during last year 2024. Look, there I am. When my beard first started getting kind of bushy, there he is. There we are doing our game stuff together as we do. It was so funny this year seeing him like wedged between the glass and the Dr. Mobile thing here to get this sign mounted. We didn't have that much trouble last year, but this year we had a little bit of trouble. Gotta remember what the heck we did last year. But anyway, they oftentimes post stuff like this. So, there I be. My Waluigi hat for my stupid pinball stuff. I'm surprised they didn't post anything about this year. Wait, and this is still a thing about last year. They haven't posted, like, anything about this year. Huh. I guess they abandoned this channel. So it would seem. Oh, there's my final stats that I would have missed during a regular play. Because, what with the whole just closing down the emulator and pulling up the video to, see the ending cutscene with skipping that first bit of the credits there. So let's see here. Difficulty, Big Boss Hard. Total playtime, 21 hours, 22 minutes, 14 seconds. Okay. Yeah. Well, I beat it within 24 hours there. Continues 77. Alert phases 134. Kills 491. Recovery items used 52. Weapon types procured 40. Flashbacks watched 143. What's the DP there? Drebin points or something like that? So just the amount of times I hit X for the stupid cutscenes there. Special items used? Yeah, I didn't really use them there. Total points, that much. Current Drebin points, yeah, it does stand for that. 103,146. Confer the title of Eagle. Eagle was my final rank. So I guess we find that out. I would have missed that from my initial playthrough there. So that's like the 10th best rank in the game? Is that what that means? Or would 40 be the... Oh, it says display explanations, R1. Title awarded to experienced weapon handlers who racked up their headshot count. Or to merciless soldiers with a penchant for killing others. Oh, so I can't see all the other ones at the moment there. Cow. Who awards a soldier spotted by the enemy an exceedingly high number of times. Title awards are ravenous soldiers with a hunger for health items. So each of these are just based around like a thing that happened the most or something like that. Title award to soldiers who work diligently to procure items on the battlefield. Interim title award to sneaky soldiers who constantly crawled on the ground. I mean, that was kind of me. Frog title award to soldiers frequently rolling forwards. So the thing that was the most noteworthy with me, Delaware to busy soldiers who were often spotted and killed, but who also dished out plenty of lethal retribution. Part of me is kind of surprised it isn't that. But the thing that really defined my gameplay experience was my amount of headshots, I guess. I mean, I was headshotting a lot of guys. Hide menus. Oh, there's my eagle background there. That I earned. Start button to exit race gun. Game completion bonus. You've obtained a new item. 38 caliber high precision automatic pistol. Ready it with the L1 button, fired it with R1 button. Press the triangle button while aiming to use the sight. Suit. Game completion bonus. You've obtained a new item. Suit worn by Snake during civilian life. You can put them on by selecting change costume under camouflage on the menu screen. Corpse camo. Game completion bonus. You've obtained a new item. A camouflage pattern resembling a corpse. Wearing this pattern when playing dead will fool even a gecko's sensors. Command vest. Game completion bonus. You've obtained a new item. A battle harness that can be attached to customize all types of equipment, distinguished by its green coloring. Command vest. Game completion bonus. You've obtained a new item. A battle harness that can be attached to customize all types of equipment, distinguished by its blue coloring. Red coloring. Orange coloring. Looks kind of yellowy. Tan coloring. The items you obtained will become available after you meet up with Metal Gear Mark II during your next playthrough, except for iPod music. Okay. Sure, yeah. Go ahead and save my completion data. Yep, go ahead and do that. There, now it's truly done. Didn't get to do that at the end of the last time. Oh man. You know, it's Friday. Well, it's Saturday now. But it was Friday throughout the day today. Today was a work day for me, so I got up at a decent hour. I didn't quite get a full sleep last night. Part of me is debating about actually just not doing Fox Hunt, like, right after this. Doing it, like, tomorrow or something instead. Technically today. You know what I mean. Because I actually am starting to get kind of tired. I guess all this talking about Metal Gear Solid 4 and everything surrounding it has kind of burned me out a little bit. So I was planning on, like, tonight's cleanup. Do Metal Gear Solid 4, then immediately do this stuff with Metal Gear Solid Delta Fox Hunt stuff. Get this little double whammy. I'm tired, man. I don't think I have the energy to go up against other players learning a new mode. I've changed my mind. I'll do that, like, I'll do it tomorrow. Today. You know what I mean. I want some rest. And then once I do that, then that's all the Metal Gear stuff done until I play Metal Gear Rising. So, yeah. Now, let's consider Metal Gear Solid 4 truly concluded. We needed this little ramble at the end to truly conclude things. And I got to see, like, the actual ending screen. So now it's properly wrapped up. I will still count this as being beaten in one sitting. Minus the game crash and, minus me, looking at other cutscenes rather than my own game at the end there and not seeing my own results screen until now, a month later. Point is, in one sitting, start to finish, I began the game and I beat the final boss. That's the important part. And I'm really, really glad that there was enough time for actually finishing this game, even if it was just barely and didn't work out quite as cleanly as I'd hoped. So definitely don't regret playing this game for the 24-hour Cherry Stream 13. This is very much going to be one of the 24-hour Cherry Streams that is a lot more rent-free in my mind than some of the others. Like I said, Battlefield PTSD with crawling through battlefields of this game. No doubt there. But, I definitely an experience I don't regret doing. Definitely an experience I'm glad to have under my belt. And I did genuinely enjoy my time with Extra Life this year. Like, might have overheard during some segments during the main playthrough there that there has been a lot of family stuff going on lately for me there. And, lots of stuff that my family is kind of struggling with right now. As was a similar thing when I played Metal Gear Solid 2. So, well, history repeats itself there, essentially. So, both me and my cousin were, dealing with a lot while Extra Life was going on there. Still are, by the way. Still very much are. But it was a lot more having just happened during Extra Life there. So, it was a little bit difficult in that sense as well. I did we both honestly tried to just, this is a cool event for a good cause. Let's just go at it and enjoy this event as it is and the games that we're playing and not dwell too much about, like, what's going on here. But you know, for me at least here, that I can speak to, you know, part of it, same with my Metal Gear Solid 2 playthrough, honestly, with Extra Life 2023, a decent part of it was putting up a little bit of a front as well. And, you know, I feel like that might have also contributed to my lack of enjoyment at parts with this game, or parts that are frustrating kind of compound and become even more frustrating. So, you know, lots that we were dealing with while it was going on, but tried our best to still have a good event and stuff there. And overall, I would say that I did have a good event, and I'm pretty sure RJ did too. So, you know, definitely an event that, the event itself, I think I will look back on fondly. I'm glad to have this experience under my belt, but, you know, just so you know a little bit of the context there as well behind that. And yeah, this will be quite the experience to look back on. So, yeah, pretty soon here, I'll finally get around to showcasing the multiplayer mode of Metal Gear Solid Delta, the Fox Hunt mode, that I know, like, nothing about past its reveal in, like, one of the early Metal Gear Solid Delta trailers that showed, like, one player running by another player that was camouflaged. And now, that's all I know. That's all I know about the multiplayer mode. Well, my OBS lagged for a hot second there. So, I'll do that after I get some well-deserved sleep here. Much like my sleep was well-deserved a month ago today. Well, a month ago tomorrow, technically. It's Saturday right now, not Sunday. You know what I mean. Alright, I greatly appreciate everybody that tuned in to this full review ramble standalone thing / this Metal Gear Solid 4 series in general. I'm gonna get some sleep here. It's been a long week for me, man. So, until next time, take care, and see ya. More Metal Gear with Metal Gear Solid Delta here soon. Like tomorrow.